Be cool, be kind, be classy. The cupcakes are sweet and sexy. Have fun and enjoy the journey. Just have a good attorney. No big whoop, no biggie. She lives in New York City. And not just a YouTube show. When you know, you better grab a straw. Learn about the law. It's cool here in the shade. Sipping motions of lemonade. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Oh, Melanie Little is going live. Oh no, where is Melanie? Follow the island's melody. There's a concert within reach. No surprise, she's at Jones Beach. She heard some music far away. Captain Jack Stack Harbor Bay. He sings and his piano plays. Not all sounds are waterways. Speaking Yiddish and Latin, it's not just for Manhattan. It's for Goethe and Machegas. Ridiculous that insanus. Oy vey, Marcus. Proset, that's for schmucks. Be cool, be kind, be classy. My cupcakes are sweet and sassy. And not just a YouTube show. When you know. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Melanie Little is going live.
Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday fun day, my friends. Today is Sunday. I think it's Sunday, December 28th, 2025. And I hope everybody had a lovely holiday season. It's not over yet. It's not over yet because New Year's is this week. And hopefully some of you have a short week of work. And I'm just sitting here wondering if the Jets are going to be able to pull it off. What do you think? BZ. NH girl. Yeah, I guess that's New Hampshire. Says, thanks for saving me from watching football with my husband. Yeah, just Patriots right now. And did the Jets just score a field goal? Is it hold on. All right, it's almost halftime. So maybe some people will join us for halftime. And so there's that. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody had a really nice Christmas. Hanukkah, Boxing Day. I spent the day before Christmas wrapping and cooking. And then I spent Christmas cooking and eating and hanging out with my kids and my family. And then I spent the day after cleaning. And then yesterday I got to rest. So it's been a long time, I think, since I've seen you last, but I missed you. If that's any consolation. There's a dog show on too. Oh, well, isn't that usually is that the day after Christmas? Maureen, you can send me an email. The email is in the show. My email is in the show notes. My email is in the show notes and below this video. If you want to email me about that, that's very tragic. I'm so sorry that your father was killed in a high-speed chase in Norfolk County on January 20th of last year. I'm very sorry about that. You can send me all the court documents that you have, if you have them, police reports, etc. And I will take a look. How's everybody doing? I love Best in Show. Isn't that one of the greatest movies of all time? There will be a Festivus. Yes, Festivus. I learned because the episode was on the other night. Is the 23rd of December. That is Festivus. That is the airing of the grievances. And that episode it was on again the other night, and it is so funny. Jerry Stiller, I think, is one of the funniest men ever. And Estelle Getty, who played George's mother, also hilarious. And what a great episode that was with the metal pole and the bagel store. So funny. How's everybody? Just checking in with you guys, checking the pulse, see what we want to cover next, what trial we want to do next. So we'll talk about a wrap up on the year. I think I did something like, and I was looking for the exact numbers of how many live streams I did, but it's like something like 270 or 280 of the live streams in 2025 so far. Truckers Against Tie Clips is here. He says it's nice to be sitting indoors looking out the window at the truck. He's been traveling in that 18-wheeler practically all year. And did we keep you busy with over 280 live streams? I think something like 36 days. We spent 36 full days on Karen Reed's second trial, in addition to all of the pretrial, all of the post-trial, all of the civil suit stuff. And it looks like, according to my analytics, we had almost 21 million views in 2025. 21 million views. Thank you to all of you to keep on, who have been keeping on. Of course. Will you continue to follow the hearings for the Karen civil case? Of course. She's not finished yet. We're not done. Listen, first of all, don't believe everything you read on the internet. Don't believe it. Thank you to whoever just sent me that email with a bunch of screenshots with threats against me in them. I'll take a look at that later and they will be dealt with. But of course I'm going to keep covering the Karen Reed civil case, of course. But Karen Reed is no longer facing any jail time for murder charges. And so there are other cases that need our attention and our fight for justice, like Kelsey Fitzsimmons, like the victims of Jesse Mack Butler in Oklahoma, like Aaron Spencer, and so many others. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, the case of hard knocks. Arkansas. What's going on in Arkansas is insane, Amy. Amy lives in Florida, but she's in Arkansas right now, and it's been warmer here than it has been where you live. Arkansas has some crazy weather. Arkansas has some crazy weather, some crazy happenings going on in their court system. And Aaron Spencer's trial is scheduled to start, I think, January 26th. Oh, Scott, I don't know how many people you sent to Block Island in 2025. There's no way for me to track that. That's a lot, though. They're ramping up. Do you notice they're ramping up? They start ramping up when they have nothing else to talk about or nothing else to focus on. And it's very, very sad that there's people out there who spend their lives just like spewing hate about people they don't even know on the internet. It's so wild to me. Estelle Harris was George's mother. Estelle Getty was Sophia on Golden Girls. Thank you. Why did I think it was Estelle Getty? Why did that? They're both named Estelle. So thank you, Annie, for correcting me, because I always appreciate it. Yeah, I know. And the Jets aren't going to win. That was a joke, obviously. It is. It is so wild how miserable some people are. But listen, it's not up to change. Well, we can change the world as far as justice goes. And we want to do something that makes a difference, right? But what we don't want to do is feed into the hatred and the negativity, because people are nuts. People are nuts. Here's our affirmations for a badass. Let's pull one out for the day. Let's pull out our affirmation for a badass. And we will take a look at that today. And then we'll pivot into whatever you guys feel like talking about today. Anybody who's not watching football and wants to hang out with me, we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. Here we go. There we go. Here's your affirmation for a badass today. And here it is. Once you fall in love with yourself, their game is over. There it is. Once you fall in love with yourself, their game is over. Over. That's your badass affirmation of the day. And then we got to figure out what trials you want to watch in 2026, because there's a couple that are interesting. Game over. Right. That's right. Oh, there's so many things I want to say, but I'm just not going to say them. So many things I want to say, but I'm just not going to say them. We spent a lot of hours this year. Let's go back to the beginning of the year, shall we? Beginning of the year were the fires in Pacific Palisades. We covered that a couple of times live. I do remember that. Let me just see how many live streams we had, and then we can go through it month by month and remember all of the things that we talked about and all of the new things that we got involved in and all of the things that we needed to finish up, like Karen Reed and Aiden Carney. And then we watched two other trials right in Norfolk County, right in the same building where Karen Reed's first trial was. And, you know, I try and cover cases that my audience is interested in. And because of the first Karen Reed trial, I developed a big base in Massachusetts. And so there were a lot of things that happened in Massachusetts this year. Starting at, let's say, January 2nd, 2025. Let's see, there were 4 shows in a row. catching up on Karen Reed's pretrial motions when the Commonwealth moved to exclude Richard Green's opinion. And then the Commonwealth, wow, do you believe how long ago this was? January 2025. There's his opinion regarding 227. That was 2 shows we did on that. And then there was Proctor's, all the Proctor debacle. And then Marie Russell's Daubert hearing. Remember that? We found out that Chloe was alive. And then beginning on January 9th, we did at least 2 live streams on the horrific fires in California. The horrific Pacific Palisades fire, the fire that destroyed the Palisades. That was so tragic. And then right after that, let's see, there was another decision on the Daubert hearing of Marie Russell. Right after that, we got into the Dr. Harry Turk trial. The Harry Turk trial. Rest in peace, Katie McLean, the wife of Dr. Ingolf Turk, who was from, remind me where he was from. That one was from Dover. He was a Dover urologist, robotic surgeon. He was on trial. Kevin Reddington was his attorney. He was on trial for the murder of his wife, Katie McLean. He had admitted, he had confessed to strangling her, but said that it was in a heat of passion. And do you remember there was a lot of evidence against Dr. Harry Turk, a lot of evidence of prior DV against Katie McLean and threats that he made to her or against her. And in the end, Dr. Harry Turk was convicted of manslaughter. He's going to be out in like 8 years because he got credit for time served. He had been in jail since 2020 when Katie McLean was killed. And it took 5 years for that case to come to trial. And he got credit for time served. I think he was sentenced to 8 to 12, if I remember correctly, for the manslaughter of Katie McLean. Rest in peace. So that took up many of our trial days. We had maybe 6 streams on that. Then I took you to Cancun with me. Did anybody remember that? Do you remember me taking you to Cancun with me? And I did a little live streaming from the Dave Matthews shows in Cancun. Wasn't that fun? Wasn't that fun? That was so fun. Yes, little cupcake, because Harry Turk had a good lawyer and the state didn't try hard enough like they did with Karen Reed, right? And that's just part of the, I don't know, misogyny that we've been watching, that they weren't really trying so hard for the female victims, but they try really, really hard when it comes to incarcerating women and pinning it on the girl. Rest in peace, Katie McLean. And that pretty much took up, let's see, we did a lot of shows in January. There's some more stuff on Richard Green and Garino. Let's see, we did about and then I think Penny McGee. Hang on 1 second. This is not very user friendly. YouTube gives you more analytics than you could ever want in your entire life, but they're just not. Well, I'm not technologically advanced, so really that's my fault. But all right, so here we go. We spent, let's see, 9 days on trial, including the verdict in Harry Turk. And that was Judge Halal? Judge Stanley Tucci? I think it was. And then we did his sentencing, and there were so many pretrial motions and so many motions in limine prior to Karen Reed's second trial, second persecution. I don't even know how many hundreds of hours I covered Karen Reed's case in 2025, but hundreds. And then right after Harry Turk's trial, we started the Penny McGee trial, and that started on, or we started covering anyway, on January 30th of 2025. Penny McGee was a woman who was on trial for manslaughter when her ex-husband, Andrew Savitz, who was very well connected politically, died during a verbal altercation they had in his foyer. He dropped out of a heart attack. At autopsy, it was found that he had something like an 80% occlusion of both descending arteries, and a crazy medical examiner who testified, well, because there were two people in the room during that altercation, I can call it a homicide because there was another person present when he died. That was crazy. That was a bench trial in front of Judge Cannoni, and Penny McGee was quickly acquitted. Larry Tipton represented her as a public defender. He agreed to take her case. And since that time, Penny McGee has filed a complaint against that medical examiner. I think her name was Rebecca Diedrich. Do you remember? And then I did a whole show on Judge Janine getting everything about Karen Reed wrong. Remember that? So let's see. We spent at least 6 or 7 shows on Penny McGee. We did a halftime show during the Super Bowl with entertainment by Trooper Joe Paul. Remember that? And then more pretrial motions on Karen Reed, more Aidan Carney motions. And then in February, I started covering the case of Sean Sousa, the Dartmouth cop. Do you remember that? I do. You know why? Because it's on appeal and the briefs have not been filed yet. For those of you who don't know about Sean Sousa was a Dartmouth police officer. He had been convicted of the rape of his stepdaughter, who was between 6 and 8 years old, convicted by a jury. First trial was a mistrial. Second trial, the jury convicted him. He was convicted of raping not only his stepdaughter, who was between the ages of 6 and 8, but also another girl who was 15 years old. He was convicted. He was sentenced. He was sentenced by the same judge who then overturned the verdict, quietly let him out of jail. And now the Commonwealth is appealing the overturning of the verdict against Sean Sousa. So if you live down there in Fall River or in the area, that was Bristol County, and that is wild. And we're still going to continue to cover that because the Commonwealth keeps asking for extensions to file their briefs. And that's interesting, and you should be outraged. Go back and watch that show. We've done more than one show on it, and it's outrageous, the decision of that judge. And again, all of these judges, the most heinous stuff that's happened in Massachusetts, in my opinion, this year, have been cases that were heard in front of female judges, which is insane. Insane. More Karen Reed pretrial motions. Andrea Burkhart came on the show to talk about Karen Reed. Vinnie Politan came on the show to talk about Karen Reed. And this was all in March of 2025. The hearing on the motion to dismiss was March 4th and 5th of 2025. And there was no evidentiary hearing ever held on that motion to dismiss, which is crazy to me. And we started covering Brian Walsh and his pretrial hearings in March, surrounded by all the new motion hearings in Aidan Carney's case, Karen Reed's case, and then jury selection, all the pretrial motions, pretrial conferences. I'm sorry. And then the Harry Turk trial started in March. I guess all those other Turk shows I was telling you about, those were the ones, the pretrial shows. So his trial started in March 27th. And we covered that. And then jury selection started on Karen Reed's case on April 1st, 2025. Isn't it crazy? And so jury selection was continuing while we were wrapping up the Harry Turk trial. That went on for 9 days. And then I did a show on what I thought was Karen Reed's trial's most underrated testimony of Dr. Renee Stonebridge. And remember, she was never called in trial number 2. She was never called. And then Karen Reed's trial started on April 13th with openings. Nope. Hold that. Hearings. Trial day 1. Openings started April 22nd, 2025. And then we covered that trial for 30-something days. Tom Kokanowski came on for, I think, for the first time and did a show. And then the verdict on Karen Read, June 18th, 2025. And then June 24th, 2025, David Giannetti and Bob Alessi came on my show and did an interview. And that was amazing. That was so much fun. And then Laura Alessi came on, Bob Alessi's daughter, and did a show. And then we started covering the Brian Walsh evidentiary hearings where Buchanan, Garino, Fanning all testified. We started prepping for that trial right after the Karen Read trial ended. And then Aiden Carney's case started ramping up. And then we started remember we covered the dentist trial, Colorado versus James Craig. And then it wasn't going to be televised. So we had to pivot to something else because that's what we do. We pivot. Aaron Spencer. My first show on Aaron Spencer was in July of 2025 because that was a little bit soon after the gag order was lifted by the Arkansas Supreme Court. And I think we started covering Kelsey Fitzsimmons right around that time also, because that happened June 30th, 2025. And then we saw Lally testify on July 21st. We saw Lally have to testify in front of, who was the judge for that? In the Miles King case. Might have been Doolin, might have been Krupp. July 21st, Stephen Stearns pled guilty. In the meantime, we kept covering Brian Walsh pretrial, Aaron Spencer. And then we started getting into the Miles King hearings and all the Proctor stuff. It was Krupp. Yeah, it was Krupp. And then we covered Martha Nolan O'Slatterer, who died on a boat in Montauk. And there's still been no resolution to that. Toxicology, I don't even think ever came back. Oh, there's Turtle Boy. He's here. It was Krupp. And then we started on the Karen Read civil case. Because that was, let's say, there was a motion to dismiss that was filed in August of 2025. Because remember, Karen Read civil case that was filed against her by the O'Keefes was filed in August of 2024. And that case was stayed until the conclusion of her acquittal in July of 2025. And so then that started back up again with the motion to dismiss. That was in August. And we got neck deep in Kelsey Fitzsimmons. We covered Nikki McCain's husband getting arrested. Finally, that was in August of 2025. And we watched select days on Donna Adelson. We watched Rob Adelson's testimony, and we watched, I think, Wendy Adelson's testimony, right? We covered Kylie Monteiro. And then I think this is already September. We did some Luigi Mangione. I think we covered that live also. Was that in 2025 though, or 2024? The Cardi B trial. Who could forget the Cardi B trial? That was so much fun. That was in September. And then we covered a part of the Josh Hubert trial. That was the one out of Worcester. The crazy case where he was accused of throwing the 7-year-old off the bridge and essaying her. And we couldn't get that. That was not televised either. But Josh Hubert was convicted. And then September 15th is when Cosgrove started trying to get Karen Read's phones again. Has there ever been a decision on that motion? I don't think so. Fitzsimmons, Aiden Carney, Karen Read civil suit. Now and then we had a Long Island serial killer update because a whole lot didn't happen and we can't get that. We can't get coverage of that on TV because it's New York. Then we covered that Amara Bryan case. Remember that? More Brian Walsh. We started on Lindsay Clancy, which I think that trial's been pushed to the spring, right? Kelsey Fitzsimmons. We've been in Massachusetts for a very long time, I feel like. We might need to start branching out. Aaron Spencer announced that he was running for sheriff, and that was in October. We did 2 shows on Ellen Greenberg. More corruption in Massachusetts with Matthew Farwell. And the CDL scandal and Sean Souza, yep. All the shenanigans that Proctor got into, Proctor's whole situation, and then we went to Oklahoma for Tiffany Adams' plea deal, and we started covering Jesse Mack Butler, which I have more stuff to report to you on Jesse Mack Butler. Then the stuff that came out on Proctor's phone, that was October 24th, 2025, the intimate pictures on Proctor's phone, and hundreds of thousands of items coming out of that download. Covered the Maya Kowalski appeal. That case was reversed on appeal, the $260 million verdict. That was a case we covered a couple of years ago. And then we were into Brian Walsh, and then Karen Reed sued everybody on November 18th of 2025. That's when we covered it anyway. Brian Camp, I must have been 2024 because it's not coming up in my 2025 list. That had to be 2024. And then we did gavel to gavel. Kelsey's appeals, Tully and Mello, Proctor's House of Cards, and then we covered the Brian Walsh trial, gavel to gavel. And we're almost at the end of December right now. Nick Reiner, we started covering Nick Reiner because that just happened. And then we started covering the Priscilla Presley, Riley Keough, Travolta saga. And here we are at the end of December. And something like, how many views did I say we had? Like 21 million views? We're moving right along. Carly Gregg must have been 2024 also, yeah. Yeah, all the mega motions, we covered them all with the hyperlinks and everything. So we've had a busy 2025. Busy 2025. And now we got to decide what we're going to do next. Dakota became a new member. Welcome, Dakota86. And Angel the Aussie has been here for 11 months since his bring on 2026 with Boss Cupcake. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much for being here for so long. Scotty Ref says, happy holidays. Can't wait to watch you in 2026. Do you think we'll see anything on New Jersey versus Higgins this year? Karen Reed Part 2 was wild. So happy for the not guilty. Loved watching it with you. I love that you watched it with me too. We'll see what happens with that. That Higgins is the guy who was in his car drunk driving, allegedly, passed a couple of cars on the right and killed 2 brothers, Johnny Goudreau, Johnny Hockey, and his brother while they were at, I think, their sister's wedding in New Jersey. That was horrific. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but it's on the list. What was his name? Sean Higgins? James, thanks for your 10 says, congratulations for over 2 million views. 20 million, dude. 21 million. Never too old to live a new dream. You're the best. And that was just for 2025. Love you with all of my heart too, James. Thank you so much for your 10. Happy anniversary to Jeannie and me. We've been together for 5 months. And happy new year to you. And PK, thanks for becoming a member. Thank you so much. And I'll allow, it says, are you still thinking of going to Aaron Spencer's trial? I don't know. I don't know if it's still happening at the end of January, but it comes right after. I'm going to be in Cancun for Dave Matthews. And so I don't know that I don't have, freedom to move about the cabin so much because I still have kids at home. And so I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. I don't know about Arkansas in January. What's the weather like? I don't know. So I don't think I'm going to be able to go, but I don't know. I think Bob Motta said he was going to go. I don't know if they're going to have cameras in the courtroom for that. Do you? I don't think Nick Reiner is going to be coming up for the trial this year. I think that's going to be a couple of years down the road. Thank you, I'll allow it, for being here for 16 months. And Becky says, I just love you with all of my heart. Thank you. Oh, thank you for being here for 18 months. And James says, sorry, I thought you said 2 million. It's 22 million. Congratulations. Yeah, that was 2025 views alone. I know we covered a lot of stuff, and yet it feels like we stayed in Massachusetts for so much of it, right? Well, here's what's coming up for 2026. Here's what's coming up most quickly, trial-wise. And we're just talking about trials right now, and so I'm going to have to take your pulse on what you guys want to watch. The first trial is coming up, and I think it's supposed to start January 6th. And I got all of the court documents, and there's not a lot. There's not a lot of court documents on the Sarah Grace Patrick case. Sarah Grace Patrick is a 17-year-old girl out of Carroll County, Georgia, who is accused of murdering her mother and her stepfather. And these murders only happened in February of 2025. And it is coming up for trial. It's supposed to start on January 6th. And I don't know if that's supposed to be the date for jury selection or if that is supposed to be the date for the trial actually starting. I don't know how they gauge it in Georgia. But Sarah Grace Patrick is 17. She's being tried as an adult. And I have the entire court file, which again is not a lot. And I watched an interview with her grandfather, who is the father of her mother, who they say she killed. And he doesn't seem to think that she did it. Apparently they were killed by gunshot wounds. And the grandfather says something like, well, the police told me that they arrested her, and they didn't arrest her for months because she's the only one who could have done it. That's a very tragic story. The 6-year-old sister or half-sister, stepsister found their bodies. And I don't know if there's a whole lot of evidence against her because there's hardly anything in the court file. They're keeping all of their evidence quiet, and they've made a motion, the defense has made a motion to keep many of these motions in limine under seal because they don't want the public to know about the evidence, which I think is also interesting. And so there's that. He's the only one that thinks she didn't do it. Well, listen, like I said, I don't know what the evidence is. Apparently they don't have a murder weapon. Do they have a murder weapon, Gator Girl? Did she have gunshot residue on her hands? Did they test her hands for gunshot residue? I don't know. The grandfather said she doesn't even know how to shoot a gun. That she's 100 pounds. And if she had a 9mm or whatever it is that they say that they were killed with, she would have been, I don't know. Yeah, her dad brought her to the PD and she turned herself in after finding out there was a warrant for her arrest, right? She's the girl who went to TikTok and she was crying on TikTok, remember? So I just don't know what evidence they have. But there was a bail hearing and she's been held without bail as an adult in Georgia. Next up in 2026, if this one goes ahead, is a trial for Brendan Banfield. Do you guys know this trial? This is in Virginia, Herndon, Virginia. Brendan Banfield is the guy who maybe allegedly was having an affair with his 23-year-old Brazilian au pair. And one morning in, how far? 2023, February of 2023, the husband, Brian Banfield, goes to work. He works at the IRS. He's a gun-toting IRS agent. He goes to McDonald's at something like 7 o'clock in the morning. He's supposed to be at work at 8 or 7:30. I don't remember. The au pair takes the 4-year-old child to the zoo. She says she forgets the girl's lunch. So she comes back and sees a strange car outside. And then she calls the wife, can't reach her. Her name's Christine. And then she calls Brendan, who happens to be at the McDonald's nearby. And there's an intruder allegedly in the house. His name is Joseph Ryan. The story gets a little convoluted from there. There's some surveillance footage of the nanny, the au pair, Juliana. Her name sounds like Juliana Margulies, but it's not Juliana Margulies. It's Juliana Margulies. And Brendan Banfield comes back to the house and says that this guy, the intruder, Joseph Ryan was inside the house stabbing his wife, so he got out his gun and then he shot her. And then Juliana, the nanny, says he told me to help shoot him. So she went and got her gun that they bought at the gun range together. And then she shot him. And then a little twist to the story is that Juliana pled guilty to manslaughter in the death of Ryan, this guy, Joseph Ryan. And she's been offered a deal that as she testifies against Brendan Banfield, she's going to get time served and they're going to let her out. So then she changes her whole entire story by the time she gets arrested or turns herself in or whatever had happened. And she's got a whole different story about what happened. And she says that it was they set up a dating profile or something for the wife and they wanted to set up this fantasy and they had this guy come over and then he really wanted to get rid of his wife. And so they killed them both. So who's going to believe Juliana when she's got such an incentive to get out of jail? Because all she has to do is testify against Brendan Banfield and they're going to let her out and they're going to try and pin both of these murders on him. It's wild. And then months later, when they go to the house, you see all the au pairs' clothing was now in the master closet. And there's a picture of them framed on the nightstand. You just can't make it up. You just can't make it. I did get my haircut. Thank you. Thank you for noticing. It's still long. It's just the layers in the front are shorter. Thank you very much for your compliments. So that's wild, right? And that was one that wasn't really on my radar, but it kind of is now. That's supposed to start end of January. Kouri Richins is coming up, but that keeps getting pushed. And that was crazy because Kouri Richins, that's in Utah. She was accused of poisoning her husband, Eric, in 2022 by serving him fentanyl, I think, in his protein shakes or his coffee or his shakes or something. And then she wrote a children's book about grief. And I remember when she went on some morning show before she was ever arrested or accused or even a suspect and trying to promote her children's book. And that was wild. And now she's on trial. She's going to be on trial. When is this coming up? February? I'm sure it's going to be televised. I don't have that much interest in it. I don't know why. I'll allow it. Says I don't have interest in that one either. I don't know if it's because everyone else is already covering it, Kouri Richins, or I don't know. I just don't know why. But maybe. I don't know how long that. It's just, yeah, me too, Carol. I'm the same way. She says, Kouri Richins doesn't really fascinate me that much. I know. And I like to pick trials that I'm fascinated in. I mean, I find Sarah Grace Patrick to be interesting because I want to know what evidence they have against her, and it's another kid being tried as an adult and it's another like teenager killing her parents. It just reminds me a lot of Carly Gregg. And like, we're seeing too much of this, too much of young people killing their parents. And now we have Nick Reiner. He's not that young. He's 32, but imagine the level of hatred and depravity that a child needs to have to take the lives of their parents. I don't know if it's happening more often or if it's just being publicized more often. And so I don't know. Laura Owens is interesting to me. When is that going to happen, Amy? When is Laura Owens? I started looking into it, but you can see based on how much we covered last year that there's been little time to look into anything else. Is that out of California? Is it going to be televised? That's a civil case, right? And it has to do with the guy from The Bachelor. Is it civil? Criminal? I don't know. But the thing is, it's hard to plan because, we have trial dates for these trials. And then what happens is they get pushed. And so you can't really bank on something that's going to happen, that may not happen. Like, listen, Brian Koberger, a lot of streamers planned their whole year around that trial. And then what had happened was he pled guilty. And so it didn't happen. It's Arizona, but it's a criminal case, 14 felonies for two of her victims, but another victim in California. So you're hoping she gets charges there also. Okay, so that's in Arizona. 14 felonies. She faked pregnancies or something, right? I know. That's right, Mama. Mama says, Ellen Greenberg's, there's not even a suspect in Ellen Greenberg. Zambi ma'am, not even a suspect. So nothing's happening with Ellen Greenberg other than they're still considering it a suicide. We started to look into it again, or me for the first time, because that was before my YouTube time when Ellen Greenberg's case happened, but they're still considering it a suicide. Yes, Ruth Miller. When is that happening? Is that the mom that was a religious zealot and she killed, what did she kill? Like her children or something? Wait, is that the one that I'm thinking of? Hold on. When is that coming up? We did cover that. It might have been like in a show where we covered a lot of cases at the same time and we had some body cam of it and she was like crazy. She was talking about the Bible and stuff. Like that was whack. Megan, is that Ruth Miller is March 4th or? Yeah, Lindsay Clancy, but Lindsay Clancy keeps getting pushed because of her medical, because of her mental state. Yes, Laura. It was the Amish young lady that her husband walked into the river and then she threw her baby into the river and then drove the golf cart with their two older kids into the river. Yes. I remember that. Was it in Pennsylvania? Is there a trial date? Her husband was a fish swallowed by a fish. That's right. I remember that now. You guys are on it. Yeah, her husband and her youngest child, right? They both died. That was bonkers. Cami Burchitz thinks that Brian Koberger is not guilty. More to come on that case. Is that BCK? Is that Brian Koberger? A lot of people think that. I don't know. I don't really have a feeling on that either way. My initial thoughts on Brian Koberger were like, where's all the blood? But is that what you're talking about? But then he pled guilty. So then I was like, all right, I guess there was a lot I didn't know. But I never really got too involved in that one. Yeah, Melodee Buzzard's mom was just arrested December 23rd. That is true. And that case will probably be a while. Melodee Buzzard was a 9-year-old girl missing from Santa Barbara County, and she went missing, or she was reported missing by school officials in October of 2025. She'd been homeschooled, and her mother, Ashlee, with 2 E's, had not reported to the school since August. And apparently, if you're homeschooling in California, you have to report into the school every so often, and she had not reported into the school. So she was finally reported missing by the school officials in October. And then it was just announced, I think, Tuesday by the Santa Barbara County Sheriff that Melodee's remains were found, I think, by some hikers in Utah, right, in a rural area on December 8th. But wasn't that the first time that they announced that her remains were found? Was just last week. So apparently the remains were found on December 8th. And then there were cartridge cases found in Utah that matched some found in Ashlee's house. And she was wearing wigs and all kinds of costumes. And there was some surveillance footage of her going on this road trip with her daughter. And the coroner's office has determined that the child died from gunshot wounds to her head. They were taking pictures and they found her. Thank you. They weren't hiking. Thanks, Becky. So I don't know how long that's going to take to get to trial, but I like to cover things that I have court documents on because there's so much speculation and rampant gossip on the internet that unless they have the receipts, I don't really like to cover them. But I can tell you what the word on the street is. Another interesting case to me is Anna Kepner. Anna Kepner, 18-year-old cheerleader, found dead on a Carnival cruise. And there's federal jurisdiction on that case because it happened on a ship. She was scheduled, Anna Kepner was scheduled to join the Navy after graduation. She was a senior in high school. On November 7th, she was on a cruise with her family and step family. And she didn't come down for breakfast on November 7th. And by 11 a.m., a maid who was cleaning the cabin that she was staying in with her, I think, 14-year-old biological brother and 16-year-old stepbrother found her body wrapped in a blanket, stuffed underneath the bed, covered in life jackets. She had been strangled. There was no SA determined, no drugs or alcohol in her system, apparently. And some stuff has come out that perhaps this 16-year-old stepbrother was obsessed with her. I don't know what evidence there is on that. But again, is that rumor? Is that real? I don't know. Stepbrother has not been charged. And apparently the 16-year-old stepbrother has been telling his mother that doesn't remember what happened. And apparently he was reportedly hospitalized for a psychiatric condition upon return to shore. There's been a custody battle going on between Chantel, who's the stepmother of Anna, and her ex-husband, who was the father of another girl who was on the cruise with them. And so some stuff came out during that custody hearing. That's kind of wild. And apparently the suspect, the 16-year-old stepbrother, is on a drug called Concerta. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of pharmaceuticals dragged into a lot of trials this year. Not only Nick Reiner, I think that's going to be a focus of Alan Jackson. I just have a feeling. I don't know why. We also saw that in Carly Gregg. She had been switching up medications at 14 years old, which may have caused some side effects. I don't know. It never really was dug into at the trial. They didn't really focus on that. And there was also some testimony that the mother didn't give him his drugs or his medication that night. There's so much more to this story. I know. And the stepmother of Anna testified at that hearing that she gave the three of them, Anna, her brother, and stepbrother, the option to stay in a different cabin, but they insisted on staying together. I don't know really why this 18-year-old girl be sharing a cabin with her 16-year-old stepbrother who may have been obsessed with her. That just kind of, I don't know, rubs me the wrong way a bit. Concerta is for ADHD. Yeah, I don't know a lot about it. Is it relatively new? I'm not demonizing ADHD meds at all. I'm saying that they may be demonized by the defense. I'm not demonizing them. I don't know what medication Nick Reiner was on. But you know, there are a lot of kids who are medicated for a lot of things with a lot of drugs that have not been tested to the point that they should be, in my opinion. You know, we're medicating our kids at such young ages that it's scary. It's scary. And it could be great for some and it could be not great for others. And if it's not completely overseen by a medical doctor, it could be a problem. That's all I'm saying. Happy New Year, lies, lies, lies. Happy New Year to you. Thanks for being with me for 10 months. And a Sunflower Day says, thanks for spending part of my birthday with me. Oh, happy birthday. Everyone tell happy Sunflower Day, happy birthday, and thanks for tuning in from Canada. Thank you so much. Sarah Bree Curated loves me with all her heart, and I love you back. Thanks for being with me for 17 months. I'm Ms. 808. Melanie on a Sunday is just awesome. Go Pats. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for 5. Angie says, I'm so glad I found you this year before Karen Read season 2. I can't wait to watch more trials with you in 2026. Happy New Year to you and your family. Happy New Year to you, Angie. Thank you so much. Not a House Defendant says, in Kouri Richins, the only thing I'm interested in is the ruling on the face unlock of her phone without a warrant. See, I don't even know. I don't even know what's up with that. How did they do that? They just held it up to her face? I don't even know. I can't even opine on that. Can't even opine on that. So thank you so much for your 5. I appreciate you so much. And if your kids are going to be on medication, you have to watch them carefully because nobody knows your kid better than you do. Nobody knows your kid better than you do. And so if they start behaving differently, you got to be on top of it. Jesse Mack Butler. There's a new federal suit against Jesse Mack Butler, which I have. Maybe we can do that one tomorrow. One of the victims. So Jesse Mack Butler, for those of you who are not familiar with that case, Jesse Mack Butler is the son of the athletic director for the Stillwater Public Schools. His father used to work, I think, for OSU football team at one point. Jesse Mack Butler is a 17-year-old, I guess he was a high school senior at the time that he graped 2 of the girls also in his senior class. And one of them was 30 seconds away from death after he strangled her. And it's on videotape. He videotaped it. Stillwater, Oklahoma residents are outraged because despite the fact that Jesse Mack Butler was charged with several felonies, there's a little wrinkle in the law that allows them to sentence him as a youthful offender. And so the judge in that case sentenced him to something like a year's probation and some counseling. One of the girls' families is having none of it, and they filed a federal lawsuit against the Stillwater public school system, against Jesse Mack Butler, against the principal of the school, and against the father and the school resource officer. And there's a lot of allegations in that lawsuit, which, if true, will outrage you as well. The school knew about Jesse Mack Butler, and they protected him instead of his victim. In fact, this is the victim who was almost 30 seconds away from death, according to her doctor. She apparently was harassed by the principal, the athletic director, who's Jesse Mack Butler's father, and the school resource officer. They all apparently ganged up against her. She was a cheerleader, and that should more than outrage you. More than outrage you. There's also, thank you, Ruth. Ruth, okay. Oh, I guess you're from Oklahoma. Oklahoma should be outraged. Yeah, Kelsey's trial should be starting February 9th, right? We're going to cover that, obviously, Angela. Thank you for reminding me. But Stillwater, Oklahoma was protecting the predator. Yeah, and re-victimizing the victim. She's 17. So her name has been withheld. She has a life sentence after what happened to her. And Jesse Mack Butler looks like he may skate. We'll see. Seems like maybe the victim's family's made a motion. One victim is also special needs. She's actually deaf. She's the victim, I think, who filed this lawsuit. She's deaf and or hard of hearing. She was under an IEP, right? She's the cheerleader. And it's horrific. It's horrific. And so I think maybe we can do that tomorrow. We'll cover the federal lawsuit on Jesse Mack Butler because that's outrageous and that outrages me. And then if you guys are interested in covering Sarah Grace Patrick's trial, we can start doing some of the pretrial on that and looking at the evidence that we know of that they have against her, which is not a lot. It's not a lot. Yeah, the Jon Benet Ramsey, I looked at that because, every Christmas I think of Jon Benet Ramsey. Every time I go to Boulder, which is very often, I drive by the house, I say a prayer for Jon Benet that finally Jon Benet's killer is going to be found. Every year they say there's new evidence. Thanks, Liz Marie. And every year we're disappointed when nothing happens. But apparently, according to Jon Ramsey, they may be starting to use IgG, which is a new form of DNA testing that looks at genetic genealogy. And so maybe they're going to be, because there was one unidentified male's DNA on several pieces of Jon Benet Ramsey's clothing that they may be able to, with new advances in DNA technology, narrow down. But it's kind of a new evidence, but not unless you've seen something different. Every year they say that. Every year I'm hopeful. We know that they have all of this unidentified DNA. We know how much DNA technology has changed since the 90s. It's 29 years since Jon Benet Ramsey was murdered. Next year, it'll be 30 years. Wait, what? Once found, not lost, as a friend of mine was accused of Jon Benet Ramsey's murder once upon a time. What? That's crazy. Send me an email. My email is in the show notes below. I read all the emails. I cannot respond to them all, but I do read them. Yeah, the family's been accused and they've all been cleared. I'm not going into I don't believe that the family had anything to do with Jon Benet Ramsey's death, because if that's true, why is there an unknown male's DNA on Jon Benet's underwear? They have the DNA. They tested the whole family. I don't think the family had anything to do with it. And I think what happened to that family after her murder is horrific. It's horrific. Patsy Ramsey died of cancer. Polly Claire says her brother was 9 years old. He didn't do anything. Yeah, 30 years. It was 1996, I guess. 1996, right? They've got all that unknown male DNA. Listen, I lived in Boulder for many years. Went to law school there and I went to college there. And even back then at the time, I left in the early 90s, there was, Boulder has a huge transient population, okay? There's a lot of homeless people that live there. There's a lot of people that wander through, a lot of transients in Boulder since then and still to this day. There were people in and out of that house all the time doing construction. There was a lot going on there. And hopefully one day they'll be able to solve that, because Boulder law enforcement absolutely 100% dropped the ball from the beginning. There were people trampling all over that crime scene right away. Stu Fisher, yep. Boulder police bungled it from jump. From jump. Yeah, IGG has come a long way. Isn't that how they got Koberger? Allegedly. There was also a guy who's in prison who confessed to killing Jon Benet, and some letters that he wrote. That I have fallen into so many rabbit holes on Jon Benet Ramsey. That is crazy. Pedo rings. And I think a viewer wrote me an email. If you're out there, send it to me again, because there was some wild stuff about another girl who was around the same age who had some horrific things happening to her that happened at that same Christmas party that the family had been to. Like, it was wild. And then we have Kelsey's trial, which should be coming up in February. And then I don't know anything about this case. This is what Court TV says are the most popular trials to watch this year, and I guess they're going to be televising them. New Mexico versus Isaac Apodaca. Isaac Apodaca is charged with coercion after his girlfriend, Kira McCulley, murdered Grace Jennings with a sword at their home in October 2022. Both McCulley and Apodaca claimed they had previously been in relationships with Jennings before dating each other. The investigation uncovered text messages that allegedly show the couple conspiring to kill Jennings. McCulley pleaded guilty to second-degree murder charges in exchange for testifying at Apodaca's trial, which is scheduled to begin in February. Well, that's interesting too. Yes, I have information on Megan Trussell. Thank you. I am going to cover that. The reason that I did not cover Megan Trussell's case when it first happened is because my daughter was a freshman at CU Boulder when that happened, and it terrified the shit out of me. But I also do not think that Megan Trussell was a suicide. And I don't think that much has been done to investigate it. Tammy Love, thank you for reminding me of that, because I'm keeping notes, you guys. I'm going to cover what you're interested in, and I'm interested in that too. But at the time, it was too close for comfort for me. And there's a lot of weird stuff going on. She never would have found herself apparently where she was found. She never would have gone there. She wasn't dressed appropriately. And she was a CU student. I don't remember if she was a freshman, but she was found dead in the mountains and they were calling it a suicide. And her mother is screaming for justice because she says that her daughter was not suicidal. And again, a lot of shenanigans go on in Boulder. And maybe we can help her mother get some justice. That would be something for us to do, Tammy, right? Right. And my daughter was also a freshman. And that's when it happened, right in the fall of 2025. I mean, 2020, fall of 2024, right? Yeah, Anna Kepner, we just spoke about. Tammy lives there and she will do whatever she can. Listen, Michael Daugherty is the district attorney in Boulder. He is amazing. We covered, I guess it wasn't 20, I guess it was the year before, we covered the King Soopers mass shooting case. When I lived in Boulder, part of when I lived in Boulder, I lived right in Table Mesa, and that was my King Soopers that I used to go to cash checks, because that was what we used to do before ATMs. We would cash checks. Hold on. Mike, and then there was a mass shooting at that King Soopers. Michael Daugherty is the district attorney of Boulder who tried that case. The feed was terrible. We could hardly watch the feed. It was like the sound was bad, the audio, everything about the feed was bad. There was a conviction in that case, thankfully. Michael Daugherty is a district attorney who has more integrity than any of district attorney that we know of. There are several who do have a lot of integrity. He is one of them. And Michael Daugherty coincidentally worked with Mark Betterow at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. So Mark knows Michael Daugherty. And so I hope if we can do something for Megan Trussell and try and get justice for her mom, he can find out who's responsible. And I don't think that was a suicide. Right. DJ says, I can't imagine what a parent goes through when their children and students near a vile, when their children are students near a vile, unsolved crime. Right. There's a Karen Reed Lifetime movie coming up on January 10th. Are we all going to watch it? The Lifetime movie where Katie Cassidy is starring as Karen Reed. And Katie Cassidy, somebody said Katie Cassidy is David Cassidy's daughter. David Cassidy from the Partridge Family. Is that true? Is that true? I don't know. The chat froze. Is your chat frozen? The chat's frozen. It disappeared. It disappeared. When is it? January 10th is the Lifetime movie. That is when it is going to air. And Lifetime movies have, a formula, just like Hallmark movies. Has anybody been watching Hallmark movies? David Partridge. No, David Cassidy played Keith Partridge, right? We can't all watch it together. We could all watch it and then we could talk about it the next day. We could do that, a debrief. Emily Hart says, I know one you haven't heard about. A woman shot and killed her boyfriend testing a bulletproof vest, only in Kentucky. Thanks, Emily Hart. I would need names. I would need names for that to look it up. So if you want to email to me, I'm happy to look at it. Thank you. Thank you, On Top, for being on top of the super stickers, as always. So I don't know about that. Lindsay Shiver. Oh, is Lindsay Shiver coming up? First of all, I don't think that's coming up this year. Lindsay Shiver is going to be tried in the Bahamas, where it can take 10 years to get a trial date. Okay. That's how long it can take to get a trial date in the Bahamas. We did cover Lindsay Shiver when it first happened. She's the woman who is accused of plotting with her bartender Bahamian boyfriend, and another man to kill her then husband, Robert Shiver. And she was thrown into a Bahamian prison. We watched a video of this Bahamian prison. Like, it's the most horrific prison conditions, I think, in the world, or something like that. And she was having an affair with this bartender, and she had like sex with him or something in the house in the Bahamas, which was owned by Robert Shiver's parents. And there's like video of it, like crazy stuff. Somehow they were able to get her, I think, back to the US, right? I don't know if she's allowed to see her kids, though. Lindsay Shiver. And she comes from a prominent family. But according to Court TV, that's coming up this year. I don't know if it is going to happen this year. And if it's in the Bahamas, I don't even know if they're going to have cameras in there. Lindsay Clancy is supposed to happen in July. Unfortunately, that keeps getting pushed. Oh, Kimberlee Singler. Yeah, what happened with her? Hold on a second. First of all, the Patriots are winning 42-3. So if you're watching the game, don't worry. I think you guys got this one. Kimberlee Singler. Oh, she was finally extradited? Hold the phone. We covered this case when she was on the run, remember? That's crazy. Okay, hold on a second. Hang on a second. And that was from Colorado. That's in Colorado also. Hold on, let me suffer through the Kimberlee Singler was suspected of killing 2 of her young children during a custody dispute 2 years ago with her husband, and she escaped to the UK, and they weren't going to extradite her. She's from Colorado Springs, and this happened. She's 37 years old. She was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. It was December of 2023. We covered this case 2 years ago when it first happened. Remember? She was on the run. Nobody knew where she was. I think she lied to the police and said there was some sort of home invasion. Her 9-year-old daughter and her 7-year-old son were found dead in their home in Colorado Springs. Her 11-year-old daughter, she tried to kill her also, but she survived. And the girl eventually told an investigator that her mother said God made her do it. She also stabbed herself, Kimberlee Singler did. Told police that a man entered the apartment, was responsible for it. This was in Colorado Springs. And then they went to go arrest Kimberlee Singler on December 26, 2023. I can't believe it was 2 years ago. And by that time, Singler was gone. She was on the run. We did a Bolo stream, at least 1 or 2 about it. And then they found her in London 4 days later. She was arrested. And she was just extradited back to the US a couple days ago. The district attorney of Colorado Springs, hold on, Michael Allen, has said that there will be a preliminary hearing within 30 days, and she's going to be held without bond until then. I don't know, maybe she's mentally ill. I don't know. But she spent 60 days, I guess, in prison in London. And the surviving child, who's now 13, is supposed to be a key witness at the trial. Let's hope that we can get cameras in the courtroom for that, because remember what happened with Barry Morphew in Colorado? Because a couple of YouTubers streamed something from the Colorado court proceedings of Barry Morphew that said, do not stream this, and they took the cameras out of the courtroom for him. So apparently she had a defense attorney in London who argued that she should not be extradited because if she was convicted of first-degree murder in Colorado, she would face a mandatory sentence of life without parole, which is a sentence that violates European human rights law. The same attorney, Edward Fitzgerald, represented WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. How did she afford Edward Fitzgerald? Wow. And she was in a bitter custody battle with her ex-husband. Wow. Well, she's back. She's back on U.S. soil in the Colorado District Attorney. Two years ago, we covered that. Thank you for reminding me about that, because we're going to have to keep an eye on the date, because that should happen within 30 days. See what evidence they have against her, which I think is hell a lot of evidence. Let me see. She's in the El Paso County Jail. Let's take a look at this video from KKTV 11. Hold on. Okay, let me put this up for you guys. This is channel 11. Because I'm just catching up on this too. Thanks. Thank on top. And thank you, Amy, for becoming a new member. Welcome. Here's the new update on Kimberlee Singler being booked into the El Paso County Jail.
On the air at 5:30 tonight, the mother accused of killing two of her children and injuring a third is now in the El Paso County Jail. This right here is a photo that was sent out by the FBI, their Denver office, showing officers and an agent escorting Kimberlee Singler. It's our first look at the suspect in 2 years now. We also have some brand new video tonight of Singler arriving at the El Paso County Jail. Our crew was there when a car carrying the suspect pulled into the jail's garage just before 5:30 tonight. Singler was arrested in London on December 30th, 2023. Days before, police say they found Singler's 7-year-old son and 9-year-old daughter dead inside of a Northeast Colorado Springs apartment. They say her 11-year-old daughter was also injured. Tonight, Singler is facing multiple charges, including murder and attempted murder. 11 News reporter Elena Tomish is live outside the jail with the latest tonight. Elena, authorities brought Singler back to Southern.
Becky said this is the same place Letitia was held before her trial. Interesting.
Colorado just this week.
That's right, Adam. And a European court refused to hear Singler's appeal. That's actually what helped her get home back to the U.S. and be held here at the El Paso County Jail. And tonight, authorities are saying that this is a big win.
It's a momentous day today. Kimberlee Singler is back in the United States and is in custody here in the 4th Judicial District.
2 years after authorities say Kimberlee Singler fled to the United Kingdom after the death of her 2 children, she's now in the El Paso County Jail on no bond.
The work of so many began immediately when the burglary call came in on December 19th, 2023. And this announcement comes just over 2 years after she was connected to gruesome crimes committed here in Colorado Springs.
Singler is accused of staging the scene at an apartment complex in Northeast Colorado Springs to make it appear that the family had been victims of a home invasion. At the time, police say they initially treated Singler as a victim, but detectives later announced they found no evidence of a burglary.
No person, much less a child, should ever have to go through something like this.
Police Chief Adrian Vasquez says investigators have been working on this case as the legal process played out overseas. Vasquez said in recent weeks, the
Fulton says, what was the motive in this case? There was a really bitter custody battle going on. And I don't know if that had to do with it. I don't know if there was a motive. You know, there doesn't need to be a motive. They don't need to prove motive, but the jury likes to hear about motive. But I'm pretty sure there was a bitter custody battle going on, because I remember we got a hold of some of the court documents. I think what I'll do is underneath the show notes of this video, I will link the prior streams that we did on this. So you can go back and catch up on that if you're interested.
European Court of Human Rights refused to hear Singler's appeal, which cleared the way for her return. This week, the FBI and CSPD traveled to London and escorted her back.
The thing about it is that you can run when you commit a crime in our jurisdiction, but we will do everything we can. We will partner with everybody that we need to partner with, and we will find you and we will bring you back.
Amy, you live near Colorado Springs? She said she was in court for Letitia's trial and she'll try to be there for Singler's trial too. We'll see how long it takes for her to get to trial because it's been 2 years. It took 2 years to get her back here. I don't know how fast her trial is going to be. But this is going to be an interesting one to follow.
Now, Singler is now facing multiple charges, including 2 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of attempted murder, and an assault charge. She's expected to make her first court appearance in the next few days. And I actually reached out to the attorney of Singler's ex-husband, but they have no comment tonight. And the DA's office said the family is, of course, requesting privacy. Live at the El Paso County Jail, Elena Tomish, 11.
Thank you, Zimmy. See, I can't remember everything, but you guys fill me in. There had been an emergency motion from the father shortly before it happened, right? And I think either she didn't show up for the hearing or the hearing was upcoming and she didn't want to go in for the hearing. Maybe the custody was going to be taken away from her. Maybe she was a danger. I don't exactly remember. It's been 2 years, but you guys do.
News.
Elena, it says on jail records here just within the last hour or so that her court date has been updated to tomorrow. So we will follow up on Christmas Eve. Thank you.
So I don't know what happened on her court date, but
tirelessly.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Megan, for sending me something on the Amish mother accused of killing her 4-year-old son. So this is another case that we were watching that we're going to continue to watch. This is out of Ohio. Okay, I thought it was Pennsylvania. It's Ohio. And this is Ruth Miller. Let me see. Let me pull this up. Thank you, Megan. Okay, hold on. Apparently this is coming up in March. That's pretty quick. Here we go.
We've got new details and a very heartbreaking case. An Amish mother is going to go on trial in the drowning of her 4-year-old son. Ruth Miller was found competent for trial Wednesday. She has pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. Tuscarora Sheriff's deputies say she was having religious delusions when she killed her son, Vincent, at Atwood Lake, Tappan Lake, I believe this was, in August.
I threw him in the lake and I gave him to God.
And they say she
That body cam was wild. Do you guys remember the body cam? All right, here we go. This is just a little tiny snippet of it. I will find that show and link it below also, so you can catch up on that if you're interested.
They say she was having religious delusions when she killed her son, Vincent, at Atwood Lake, Tappan Lake, I believe this was, in August.
I threw him in the lake and I gave him to God.
She said, I threw him in the lake and I gave him to God. And it goes on for a long time. And what happened with the father too? Didn't the father also die? Didn't he like wade into the water and die also? She's only charged with the son, I guess. But the body cam right after the incident is very telling. Like she does seem like she's really out of it. Yeah, Robin says it was so disturbing. She was having a mental break or deserves an Oscar, one or the other.
And they say she also tried to drown her 3 other children by driving a golf cart into the lake. They were badly hurt physically. Her husband, Marcus, also drowned. Deputies say he was having delusions too. Miller could get life in prison. If she is found guilty, her trial starts March 4th.
That was crazy. Oh, wait, are they going to show us some body cam now? Oh, wait, hang on. Well, this one's 22 minutes long, so do you want to watch this one? Yeah, this is a crazy story. March 4th, they said. I think there'll be cameras in there. Yeah, he went in after the child and drowned. She said he was swallowed by a fish. That's right. He was swallowed by a fish. Are you guys watching Landman? Yeah, Landman's pretty good. I watched the new episode last night. I actually stayed up until midnight to watch it because it drops at midnight. So I watched it. That was nice. That was a nice one. Nice episode. Finally. Well, I'm not going to spoil it for you if you haven't watched it yet. But it's good. There were cameras for her arraignment. All right, good. There have been cameras for the hearings, says Megan. Okay, thanks, Megan. Shanna Gardner. All right, well, you think that's going to happen in August? Shanna Gardner. That's an interesting one. We covered that in the beginning, too, when it first happened. Shanna Gardner is accused of hiring a hitman to kill her husband in Florida, Jared Bridegan. Shanna Gardner comes from a family, another very wealthy family. Where are they, in Utah or something? And they have some sort of like scrapbooking company. Remind me, refresh my recollection. It was like her boyfriend at the time from the gym. His name was Mario Fernandez Saldana. And they hired this other guy, Henry Tenon, to kill her husband. And remember, the little baby was in the back seat in a car seat. And Henry Tenon put a tire in the road. So Jared Bridegan had to stop and get out of the car to move the tire. And then he shot him dead. Stampin' Up, it's called. Thank you, Amanda. Stampin' Up. She's the heiress to the Stampin' Up fortune. And then somehow Shanna Gardner's parents bought her a house or something in Washington. She had the children. She would not let the children see their stepbrother and sister. I think that Jared Bridegan's widow's name is Kirsten, if I recall correctly. And they were withholding Shanna's children. One of them were a set of twins, and they were very close. And they're not allowed to see them. They withdrew the death penalty, it appears. That was in Florida, right? And allegedly that's supposed to happen in August. Let's see something. Hold on a second. Oh, please. Okay, here we go. I like this guy on Court TV. Tell me what his name is again.
Notice some developments out of the state of Florida, where the death penalty is no longer on the table in the Microsoft executive murder trial. Prosecutors have withdrawn their intent to seek the death penalty for two of the charged suspects in this murder for hire case of Jared Bridegan's murder. Bridegan was murdered back in February of 2022 in what police say was a murder for hire orchestrated by his ex-wife, Shanna Gardner, and her second husband, Mario Fernandez. The couple is set to appear in court for a pretrial hearing the second week of December. The trial is set to go in August of next year. We'll keep you updated on more developments, but at this point, death penalty off the case there in that case in Florida.
People are saying, why would they withdraw the death penalty? Death penalty cases are very expensive. They take a very, 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 very long time. Sometimes the family has some say. Some people feel that it's life in prison without parole is far more of a punishment than the death penalty. And so there are lots of reasons why they would withdraw it. Here's something I was going to show you on Sarah Grace Patrick. You know what I like also about this Sarah Grace Patrick case is the judge. The judge's name is Dusty Hightower. And he reminds me of Jake from 16 Candles. I don't know if they're going to show him in this, but hang on one sec. This is just part of Vinny's show from the other night on this case. And so I wanted to show you the grandfather's interview of Sarah Grace Patrick, just a little tiny portion of it. She was arrested in July of 2025, and the trial is already upcoming for January. It hasn't even been a year.
Months later, arrested Sarah Patrick 2020 public in terms of wake people up in that neighborhood.
This is the home where the stepfather and the mother were found assassinated by the 6-year-old. And this is in Carroll County, Georgia.
Neighborhood. So let's kind of review here about what we do know about this case and what's been made public in terms of evidence or potential evidence. Sarah Patrick's mother, stepfather, found shot to death in their bed. That's Kristen and James Brock. February 2025 at their home in Carrollton, Georgia, Carroll County. Sarah Patrick's 6-year-old sister is the one who discovered the bodies. Sarah called 911 herself, but she was not arrested until July, 5 months later. 5 months it takes to build the case. Investigators say her...
No, the 6-year-old is the one who found the bodies. She's not the one who allegedly was arrested. She found the bodies.
Digital footprint is of interest. The sheriff's office spokesperson didn't rule out more arrests when asked about whether anyone else could be responsible. Now,
Sarah was 17 at the time.
Dennis Nolan is Sarah's grandfather, and as I mentioned, the father of Sarah's mom, so one of the victims in the case. Here's what he said about the evidence in the case.
For them to charge Sarah without, you know, and I'll say this, the investigator told me the day they issued the warrant, when I asked him, I said, well, what proof did, why did you pick on Sarah? He said, well, she's the only one who could have done it.
I'm sorry, she's the only one who could have done it? This is the father of the mother that Sarah Grace Patrick allegedly murdered. He apparently doesn't think she did it. He doesn't think there's any evidence. I don't know when this interview was done, but this show of Vinny's just aired a couple days ago.
And that's a quote. But and that's, to me, that's not enough proof to throw a 17-year-old girl in jail.
All right, that brings us to the next question in our investigation. All about the evidence. What type of evidence do prosecutors have in this case?
I mean, it doesn't seem like there's a lot.
Is it just, it couldn't be her 6-year-old sister, so it's her? She's the only one who could have done it? Do they have the forensics? Is this a DNA case? I don't even think they have a murder weapon. Let's bring in our guest. Joining me, retired police commander, author, and host of the podcast Profiling Evil. Mike King is with us, and still with us, Georgia criminal.
I was on Mike King's show once. I was New Year's Day. Was it last year or the year before? And that's the first time I ever met Vinny Politan. We were both guests on Mike King's show on Profiling Evil. Let's see what they've got to say.
Defense attorney John Luke Weaver. All right, Mike. A lot of confidence, I sense. Do you think they have the evidence to back this up? And it's a different kind of case, right? Because it's not a stranger. So if her DNA is in the home, her DNA is in the home.
Yeah, Vinny, I think that's going to be a challenge. But if law enforcement was able to collect evidence on site that would link Sarah to the crimes, that's going to be incredibly valuable. And to go forward and say we're going to do we're going to charge this girl as an adult, and to say we have mountains of evidence makes me think that they may have things. I mean, I don't know for sure what type of weapon was used in this homicide or these homicides, whether it was a semi-automatic weapon that possibly could have discharged casings that were laying on the ground that might have a fingerprint on them, or DNA from the person who loaded that weapon and fired it, or if it was a revolver and those were retained in the weapon and disappeared. We don't know if the weapon belonged to the father or the home, or it originated somewhere else, but there undoubtedly are digital trails of a lot of things that we're not aware of. And there's also forensic evidence that we're not aware of. We don't know if there were tests like gunshot residue on Sarah's hand.
There's a picture of Sarah Grace Patrick, 17. Yeah, I didn't like the turn that this sort of took. Like Vinny was like, "Oh, look at her. She looks so seductive on her Instagram pictures." And then when she's in court, she looks so young and innocent. Like, why are we shaming a girl's Instagram um photos and then choosing to say that she must be guilty because she looks like a young innocent while she's behind bars, and yet here she was. And this is not even like completely inappropriate Instagram photographs. I don't know. I just didn't like the turn it took. Lemon Squeeze says, my husband grew up with Dusty Hightower. He wouldn't hold a bond. Oh, he wouldn't hold without bond for no reason. Listen, I like this judge. I like him because he looks like Jake. What was his name? Jake from and also the only better name than Dusty Hightower is perhaps Dakota Loving. If you know, you know. Do you know who Dakota Loving is? You know, I see you guys already talking about it in the chat about the TV show that I'm talking about. Dakota Loving and Dusty Hightower.
Or if there was any kind of blowback debris from the wounds that these two people suffered, and did that end up in clothing that was later collected that would tie her back to the actual scene versus...
Like, here's another picture of her. Okay, so what? So what? She's 17 years old. This is what kids do. I didn't like it. I didn't like the turn that it took. And so I'm not going to watch the rest of that. But let's just see. Because they really have no evidence to talk about. So the show is like, there's a lot of filler. Here's the, wait, there's another piece from the grandfather and the father. So let's hear from some of the family who are supporting her. Let's hear this.
As supporter, people are questioning whether or not she did this. And so she has supporters.
All right. So she's got a lot of supporters. Are they going to be supporters? They're showing up in Georgia. I'm interested now. Okay, let's see. Oops.
Now, Dennis Nolan is Sarah's grandfather, and as I mentioned, the father of Sarah's mom. So one of the victims in the case. Here's what he said about the evidence.
I just went back. Why did I go back? Okay, hold on.
After months of 911, 6-year-old sister, even seasoned investigator. Here's the story.
Okay, here's the story. For those who don't know about it.
In Carroll County, Georgia, a quiet rural home became a crime scene that stunned even seasoned investigators. Sarah Grace Patrick, just 17 years old, stands accused of killing her mother, Kristen Brock, and stepfather, James Brock. Their bodies found shot to death in bed by her 6-year-old sister. Moments later, Sarah Grace called 911. Detectives say her story didn't add up. Digital trails, social media posts, and private messages allegedly pointed back to her. After months of investigation, she surrendered to police and now faces murder charges as an adult. Prosecutors call her manipulative.
Oh, there he is. There he is. There's Dusty Hightower. Come on, tell me he does not look like Jake from 16 Candles. Hold on. Come to screen if you can do it so safely. Oops, wait a second. Right? Isn't he awesome? He's like out of central casting, Judge Dusty Hightower. I'm here for it. Jake from 16 Candles. Did anybody guess who Dakota Loving is? Dakota Loving is a character in Landman. Dakota Loving is a character in Landman. He was the football player boyfriend of Ainsley until she dumped him.
Dangerous, while supporters describe a faithful, broken teenager incapable of such violence. With no bond and a trial looming, the mystery deepens. What drove a beloved church-going girl to be at the center of an unthinkable crime? Was it premeditation or an alleged moment of chaos that destroyed a family
This
and left the
music doesn't
community
screw me on
grasping
that
for answers?
copyright.
So when we talk about family in this case, it's another situation where we're talking about a blended family, right? Because Sarah's mom and dad no longer together. Mom gets remarried. And that's one of the victims in the case is the stepfather and her mother living in that house. Now, the way things are sort of breaking down, when we hear from people from the stepfather's side of the family, they believe that Sarah Grace is responsible for this. And then you go on the other side of the family, it's not as clear, and a lot of people are questioning whether or not she did this. And so she has supporters. So let's hear some of the various people who are supporting her, family and family, friends, starting with her father, Daniel Patrick, who spoke with Newsweek.
I know 100% in my heart that Sarah's innocent.
Oh, stop with the stupid cheesy music.
She's a typical 17-year-old that, lived like a teenager. And
Right. Like, did she have any history of mental illness? Did she have any history of being on any medications that could have caused a delusion? Did she have a history of doing drugs? I mean, is there a history of something else that was going on in that house? We don't know. How can anybody say one way or another until the evidence has been disclosed? I know people have already convicted this girl, and this happens. We see this in every single case. It's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. And then mainstream media gets a hold of it and they leak certain things out that they want everyone to see. And so everyone just assumes that she's guilty because they're reporting on it as if she is. And there was apparently nobody else that could have done it. So she did it. I mean, it's wild. Oops. Come back. The father says she wouldn't do it. I just have to fast forward it because the music.
DJ, her father was a good,
All right, and then
there
that's
was nothing,
this is the
DJ,
grandfather.
her father was he's a good person, and he and Kristen got along very well. They had their disagreements, but they had been divorced for so long that they got along quite well, and they were cooperative, and Sarah would go visit him at times. They had their disagreements, just like any teenage daughter would have with a mother.
Yep. Caroline says, losing her mom and stepdad, now in jail accused of this. If she's in fact innocent, talk about feeling alone and scared. Thanks for following this. Yeah, also, they made a big deal about her going on TikTok and trying to get TikTokers to report on the story to try and help her find out who killed her parents. And then it was 5 months later that she was arrested. And so they made a big deal about that. Like, she went on TikTok and cried all these fake tears. And, everybody wants everyone convicted because I guess for them, it's so much more of an interesting story. But it's like nobody is innocent until proven guilty anymore. Shan says, how does she know that? How do we know she wasn't being abused? Right. How do we know anything? Her pastor spoke out at her bail hearing. And that's right. Almost Sane says that is correct. Court TV shamed Maya Kowalski the same way. It was Julie Grant that time. Yep. And Harry Potter's beard says that her family encouraged her to go on TikTok. And CS Tears says, because she had no other idea about how to find the real killer. Magnolia Gypsy says, wake up. That's what 17-year-olds do. That generation is not our generation. Right. Some twists and turns to this one.
But Sarah was a good kid. I mean, she really was. I'm just in total shock. I mean, because she, first of all, the length of time that's passed and the fact that they arrested her without any evidence that I know of. Everything seems circumstantial, and I think they were just desperate to arrest someone and to try and, because the case was open for months. A lot of investigation. I know they tried hard to find the murder weapon. They tried hard to find who was involved. They investigated a lot of people. You take a 100-pound girl and you hand her a 9mm pistol, and
oh, whoops, sorry. Okay, wait, he's talking about the pistol, right?
you ask her to fire it, who doesn't have a lot of, I don't know if Sarah had ever shot a gun before. She was here, and whenever we shot guns, they were rifles. I never saw her shoot a pistol, but I just can't imagine, the accuracy that gun had in her hands. I don't think it could happen.
As our relationship grew, she began to open up to me about her past and
Okay, we're going to pivot to this. We're going to pivot over to the hearing. This was the bail hearing. You're going to get to see Judge Dusty Hightower. I think he might be my new favorite judge. Look at the sideburns on him. I mean, he is like chic. This is Carroll County, Georgia. It happened in Carrollton, Georgia. This is the pastor. He's going to testify. This was at the August 2025 bail hearing, in which a lot of witnesses testified about why Sarah should be held in jail, pending, waiting for her trial. And this is the pastor who came in to testify. And let's listen to this because maybe he'll give us a different view of Sarah, because, you know, why not look at all sides of an issue, right? This was in August 2025. Judge Dusty Hightower. Oh, Megan says also they aren't releasing the evidence before trial. I think because in the press release after her arrest, the DA said there may be more arrests. I have the motion on that. If you guys are interested, we'll start working on this week and start looking at the court file, which, like I said, there's not a lot in the court file.
I appreciate the attorneys working with me. The request for bond, I believe, was done on July 11th, and I was in compliance with getting that scheduled in the time frame that was necessary. But because of some surrounding factors, I believe both the state and defense agreed to put that out to this day and was allowed me to specially set it so that we could accommodate a little more of the public and actually have an open courtroom that could account for everyone. So I appreciate both sides, state and defense, working with me with rescheduling that, placing it on for today. I do want to start. I know that this is a case of great interest to a lot of people, and I do know that we have media in the courtroom. But I want to remind everyone in the gallery that this is not daytime court TV, and this is not for entertainment.
Wow.
We're here to
It's a small courtroom. There's 2 pews. I call them church pews because that's really like what they are. It's not like stadium seating like in a movie theater or reclining seating like a movie theater. 2 pews, and it's packed full, and it looks like family and friends, and people have shirts on that say, I'm not sure what. Something about Sarah Grace. Let's see. I stand with Sarah Grace. Okay, they have t-shirts.
apply the law to this motion for bond, and that's my job, to simply listen to both sides and apply the law fairly and justly, and I'm going to do that to the best of my ability. If anyone chooses to act out, this is your only warning. I will hold you in contempt because we will keep an orderly courtroom. So as long as everybody follows those rules, we'll be perfectly fine, and we'll get through this easily and safely, and we'll get it done. With that, defense, you have made a motion for bond. It's your motion. Are y'all ready to proceed?
We already are.
All right, state, are y'all ready as well? All right, Vince. I'm motioning for them. They're going to grab her. Yep. Did y'all need to approach about anything before we get started?
Sarah Grace's attorney is a public defender. Her name is LaToya Williams.
Okay. Media, what I did is I just followed my rule. The first to send in a Rule 22 is the media that got to place their camera in the courtroom. That was Court TV, I believe. They know how to pull. The order's been out there. They should have everything and accommodate everyone with getting you all that you need, because that's the rules. And I've been assured they know how to do that and will accommodate.
Comes Sarah into the courtroom, and this is like what Vinny was saying, like, oh, look, she looks so much younger and so innocent when she's in court, and that here she is on her Instagram looking so much older. And I mean, he didn't say slutty, but that might have been what those men who commented about it were thinking, because I didn't play it for you because it disgusts me.
Pull. The order's been out there. They should have everything and accommodate everyone with getting you all that you need, because that's the rules. And I've been assured they know how to do that and will accommodate all other media outlets for what you need. All right. All right. Dustin, you ready? All right, this is State of Georgia versus Sarah Grace Patrick. Again, defense, this is your motion on your motion for bond. You ready to proceed?
I am, Your Honor.
And State, you ready as well? All right, defense, this is your motion, so whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Judge. I'd like to call Ben Bonner as my first witness.
All right, have Mr. Bonner, please.
Believe he stepped out in the hallway. There was no room for
That's fine. If we can announce for Mr. Bonner.
Look at her lawyers. They really they're so kind to her and doing the Lord's work. I don't know if she'd be allowed to come on the show, but I would love to talk to her.
I will. Yes, sir. If you'll come around and come up here, if you'll remain standing and just raise your right hand when you get up here, okay? You remain standing, raise your right hand. You swear affirm the statements given before the court today, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
All right, you may be seated. If you would, just slide that mic closer to you when you sit down and just speak loudly and clearly into the microphone.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Bonner.
Good morning.
Or should I say pastor?
Just Ben.
Oh, just being, all right. You are you where do you work?
I'm lead pastor at Catalyst Church, Carrollton, Georgia.
That's here in Carrollton, Georgia?
Yes, sir.
About how far is it from this location?
113, couple miles. I'm geographically challenged, not my gift, but 2 to 4 miles, I guess.
About how many minutes would you think?
From here, depends on.
If you're just tuning in, Sarah Grace Patrick is 17 years old. She's being tried in, her trial's coming up on January 6th. Carroll County, Georgia. She's accused of murdering her mother and stepfather with a firearm.
Time of day, 5 to 10.
All right, 5 to 10 minutes, so not very far.
No, ma'am.
How long have you been the pastor at Catalyst Church in Carrollton?
We started Catalyst in 2017, so since the beginning, I was one of the founding pastors.
And do you have services every week?
Every week.
Yes, what days are those services on?
We have 2 services on Sunday, 9 and 10:30.
Now, in relation to this case, were you asked to write a letter about Sarah's character?
Yes, I was asked to write a letter. Well, I honestly offered anything I could do to help any of the family. I want to be a support.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, she's being tried as an adult. Yes, but she's 17.
It's been marked as defense bond exhibit 2. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I actually brought a copy, so in case I need to read it.
Is that your letter?
Yes, ma'am.
Has anything been altered or deleted from it?
No.
Okay. Defense seeks to tender defense bond exhibit 2.
Any objection from the state? No. All right, it'll be admitted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Pastor, would you read that letter that you prepared?
Yes. To Honorable Judge, my name is Ben Bonner, and I serve as lead pastor at Catalyst Church in Carrollton, Georgia. I'm writing on behalf of Sarah Grace Patrick, a young woman who's been a part of our church family for about a year now. Sarah Grace first came to Catalyst around a year ago. From the beginning, she was eager to grow in her faith and get involved. She made a personal decision to be baptized not long after attending, and has stayed consistently connected to the church ever since. She didn't just show up on Sundays. She came during the week as well, asked questions, served, invited others, including her boyfriend at the time, and clearly found a place where she felt at home. Throughout the past year, and even through the challenges of this year, she has continued to attend services regularly. She and her family often travel over an hour just to be with us. I've spoken and prayed with Sarah Grace many times throughout this season. Her commitment to staying grounded in her faith and connected to a healthy community has remained steady. She's even called from jail multiple times so I could pray with her. Her father has also become an active part of the church. He was baptized recently, and he still comes to services faithfully. It's a privilege to walk with their family during such a difficult time, and we love and care for them deeply. If it's possible and the court sees fit to grant Sarah Grace bond, we would gladly continue to walk alongside her as a church. We believe having her with her family and church community is an important part of her support system. We're committed to loving her well, encouraging her, and helping her continue on a positive path. Thank you for your time considering this. Sincerely, Ben Bonner.
Thank you. Pastor, are there other members of your church or congregation here in the courtroom with us, or are you in the hallway?
They're in the hallway. I brought a few staff, and then there's some other church families spread out that were connected to Kristen James, Sarah Grace, all the family, which they brought to the church.
Okay. Now, you said that Sarah and her family came back in August of last year. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
When they came, were they just attending, or were they further engaged in activities at the church?
No, they the entire family
James, Kristen, Sarah Grace, they jumped right in. That's why it's hard. They became very, very beloved between August and February. I mean, our church family adores all of them, you know, everybody. And we're for the entire family. So.
And Sarah, specifically as it relates to Sarah Grace, was she involved or engaged in other programs throughout the church other than attending Sunday services?
Yes, the entire family in multiple teams. The entire family, multiple teams, from cleaning to kids, kids ministry. There was, I have a staff now, so and a lot of team leaders. The church looks a lot different the last several years with growth, but they were engaged in multiple teams. And if you ever need me to give a list, because I don't want to misspeak, I could get an actual list of all the things the family and Sarah Grace were engaged in.
But it's just safe to say they were involved in more than just Sunday service.
Yes, they were there in the week. They were there during the week, not just on Sundays helping. So.
All right. Now, you said in your letter that family still comes over an hour to come to your church on Sunday.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you referencing DJ?
DJ, yes, DJ, and then DJ Junior, little DJ, and everybody still comes except, of course, Jaylee, because she lives away with her grandmother. That's a long drive, but they all actively come and consistently. Even now that Sarah Grace hasn't been able to come, they continue to come consistently.
And just for clarity, who is DJ?
Sarah Grace's father. Thank you. I want to make sure I'm clear.
No problem. Now, you indicated that you would do whatever in your letter to help in this regard with Sarah. Have you facilitated people at the court's instruction before? Over the years, multiple times, I have come to this room a couple of times and offered to facilitate any way that would, if there's any way to make the court and you feel comfortable, we'll do anything we can to facilitate. We just want to help. Y'all have a great calling. Ours is to support and love. Y'all are the jury and the judges, and so anything we can do, we're willing to help. To make that happen. And coming to a close here, you indicated that Sarah still calls you while she's been incarcerated. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when you have conversations with Sarah, are the substance of those conversations about do you believe me or anything like that?
Two things she calls us. It's been two things every time. One is to thank me. Thank me for everything, and it's particularly for her dad.
So this was for the hearing on bond. She wasn't given any bail. She's being held without bail. Gator Girl says, just keep an open mind because a lot of her parents' friends think she's guilty. A lot hasn't come out. I'm trying to just listen to the courts. I live close by. And then said she said no weapon has been found. They haven't said anything about residual evidence or gunshot residue or anything like that. And a nurse not lawyer said just because people think she did it doesn't mean she did. I mean, I'm waiting to hear the evidence because there's not much of it at all. That is a slam dunk, she did it kind of thing. Harry Potter's beard said, I mean, if you Google this young girl's name, the headline stories are just disgusting. Oh, Sweetie No gifted 5 memberships. You're awesome. Thank you. Oh, Sweetie No, and to the 5 who were so randomly gifted. Welcome. Betsy, thanks so much for your Venmo. I miss you too. Betsy says she's missed me so much. And so if you guys are into this one, we will cover when it happens, which is supposed to be January 6th. They've moved for continuance. That was denied. Seems there's not a lot of evidence. There's a lot of evidence that has not been turned over to the defense yet as of the last motion that I have for you, which we can go into detail with. If you decide that we want to cover it, if we decide that we want to cover it. Betsy, thank you so much for your Venmo. Says, my God, I've missed you. Love you. Oh, thank you so much, Betsy. I love you too. I love you too. Brigitte Bardot has died. I just noticed. 91 years old. Movie icon who renounced stardom died at 91. It's a good run. That is a good run. And here's a picture of Brigitte Bardot. Whoops, hold on. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. So beautiful. Katie Girl says, we cover it. I follow the sister on TikTok. Oh, she must be what? She's only 6, 7? Is this a different sister than the one who found her parents? Pastor seems nice. I mean, he seemed to say that he would be, they would look out for her and stuff. But I don't know. We don't know until we know. I just don't like how the media has already convicted this girl who's 17 years old because she looks older in her Instagram photos. I don't know. What else? What else you guys want to cover coming up soon? Let's see. I think we have a lot. We have a lot going on. Somebody said here, Eileen said we should expect Krupp ruling on cell phones this week before he rotates out. Really? Has that been confirmed? Okay. That would be interesting. I'm interested to see what that ruling is regarding Karen Reed's cell phones that were seized in January of 2024 and still have not yet been searched, apparently. So I'm sure we'll go live with that. And it's going to be a short week because it's a holiday. There's a holiday in here, right? Yeah, that's what he said. Glamour shots. That's right, Sammy, ma'am. And Deanna was just gifted a membership. Deanne, she's so happy. Yay. There's a lot going on. Courtney Clenny, I don't know. That keeps getting pushed too. So it's like every time we start talking about that, it keeps getting pushed. She's the OnlyFans model, right? And so it's hard. It's better to wait until we know that something is firm and actually going to go ahead before we start diving deep into it, because then it gets, it gets adjourned for months and months and months. Well, I don't know. I have in my calendar that Sarah Grace Patrick's trial is supposed to start on the 5th of January, which would be next Monday, a week from tomorrow. I have Nick Reiner's due back in court on January 7th. Karen Reed Lifetime movie is going to air on January 10th. The Brendan Banfield trial out of Virginia is supposed to start January 13th. But again, all of these things are subject to change. There's a final pretrial conference on John Kerry, allegedly January 16th. He's the one who has been accused of and indicted for a murder in something like 1984 in Salem. Claire Gravel, right? That's John Kerry. And then we have Aidan Carney has a hearing, a motion to disqualify hearing. That is January 23rd. I'm going to be in Mexico. I don't know if I can cover. And then the Aaron Spencer trial is supposed to start January 26th and last for 5 days. That's in Arkansas in front of Judge Barbara Elmore. And then the John Kerry trial is supposed to start February 2nd, maybe. But again, the way things keep getting pushed and pushed and pushed, you just never know. Kelsey's trial is supposed to start February 9th. I don't know if that's a firm date or if that is going to get adjourned as well. So we have a lot. We have a lot going on for just the next. No, John Kerry, the actor. No, it's John Kerry, Carey. We've done a couple of shows on him, at least one. He's accused of killing a girl by the name of Claire Gravel all the way back in, I think it was 1984. And there were 2 cops that should have been investigated, but weren't. So if you're not familiar with that case, I can link to that show below. Yeah, right. You can expect a hoodie. You can expect a hoodie from Cancun. Me and Dave Matthews. Hang on one second. We've got merch for that. All right. It is now 4 p.m. on the East Coast, and I'm going to bid you adieu until tomorrow. And what would you like to see tomorrow? Would you like to talk about, I'm going to give you the choice. Would you like to start diving into Sarah Grace Patrick, or would you like to talk about the federal lawsuit against Jesse Mack Butler and his father, the athletic director, and the principal in the school district? So you tell me what you want to hear in the chat, and we can start tomorrow. Well, we can watch the, we're getting a little taste of the bond hearings today. We're not going to watch the whole thing because I wanted to know, I wanted to gauge, take the pulse, put my finger on the pulse of my audience to see what cases you guys want to cover. Yeah, I'm going to be showing Karen Reed civil hearings, but there's nothing coming up. That case is going to go on for 10 years. Going to go on for, it could go on for 10 years. It may not go on for 10 years, but with all of the lawsuits, the one that's in Plymouth, the one that's right now in federal court that may get sent back to, is it Bristol? We're going to keep showing them, but they're going to be few and far between. It's not going to be like before where we keep getting documents on a criminal trial that's coming up. You know, both. So yeah, I'm going to follow Karen Reed's case until she gets a check big enough to buy the state of Massachusetts. You can bet on that. Jesse Mack Butler. Either, both. We could do all the things. We could split them into 2 different shows also because, you know, tomorrow's a work day for a lot of people, right? Are you guys back to work tomorrow? Because the Jesse Mack Butler, it's not going to be that long of a show because the complaint in that, it's only like 12 pages. Sometimes we get a complaint and it's like 35 pages. Yeah, we need an upcoming Attorney Melanie little Google calendar. But the thing is that the dates keep changing and we keep getting breaking news. And so we have to pivot, and we do. We pivot. We pivot on a dime all the time. I'll come back and read the chat to see what you guys wanted to do. Back to work Monday, Tuesday, then a holiday again. So I got to keep you busy doing your work days, right? And so that's what we'll do. I think maybe we'll do both tomorrow. We'll do one in the morning and one in the afternoon. We'll see. We'll see. But I'm going to go spend the evening with my kids. That's what I'm going to do. So to each and every one of you, thank you so much for choosing to spend a little part of your day with me today so that we could take the pulse on what we are going to cover next and the things that we are going to continue to cover, like Aiden Carney's case, Karen Reed's case, all of the shenanigans in Massachusetts, Proctor, all of the corruption in the Massachusetts State Police. But there are new things coming up that we've been covering for a couple of years now that we can't just ditch, right? All right. Mazza Media is doing a fundraiser for Kelsey Fitzsimmons at 5. And so go on over there and watch it. I have plans with my kids tonight, so I'm not going to be able to make it. But I hope that you will go over there and support Kelsey. And Mazza is a good guy. I like Mazza. So get on over there and do that. Stay cool, stay kind, stay classy. Thank you to Resisting Arrest says 2 shows sounds perfect. Let's do that. Thanks for hanging out with me for a whole year. Resisting Arrest. And In Lemonade says, thank you for all that you do. Thanks for being with me for 15 months. I hope that each and every one of you had a wonderful holiday. And if you didn't, well, come hang out with us tomorrow because everything's going to be fine. Thank you to the moderators for keeping it classy in here today. We had a very intimate crowd, which is nice. And so it wasn't crazy like sometimes it can be with the hatred and the vitriol because we just can't stand it. All right. I will see you guys tomorrow. I don't know what time yet. That's why you want to make sure that you have all notifications set. All of your subscription is done and you haven't been unsubscribed randomly by YouTube because that happens a lot too. And I'm so glad you found me this year too. Thank you so much. Slow and home steady. I love you guys so much. And if I want to see you soon, I'm going to die, but I am going to see you soon because I'm going to see you tomorrow. Okay, I just don't know what time. Probably not too early. Probably 10-ish. 10-ish. Let's say 10-ish. Come on back. Oh, your husband got you the Dyson. Are you in love? Are you in love with your Dyson? Are you so happy? Do I get credit? Do I get credit for telling him? Did he get the discount? Awesome. I love it. And Laura says notifications are always set for our Queen Melody. All right, you guys. I love you so much. I will see you soon. Peace out. And we will be together tomorrow. Good night, everyone.